Hello everyone, I am Saimukul. I am a student of English Care. Today I am here to talk about a mysterious incident which took place in America. And it was around the 19th century and it was around 1970s and 80s. And a small family, they were living in the west side of the America, and they were living in a small house, and the family consists of uh, a couple, and they had four daughters and a dog, and they were living there happily. And one day, whereas the couple the husband was a US retired Navy officer, whereas his name is Jack and Janet, whereas Janet was just a housewife, and they were living. And at one time a dangerous flood took place in the place where they were living, so they had to shift their place immediately, and they thought of shifting it to Jack's parents' house. That means Janet's father-in-law's house, and they went there, and they were shifting the houses. And finally went there, and they were living happily. And they weren't aware of the history about what had happened it before 100 years ago. That means century ago. And they were living, and while they shifted, after 1 week, they started to have some mysterious sounds, some knocking at the doors, but they did not care about it, as they thought that some of the daughters would have done that. At one time, as Jack was a retired officer, he was at his home, and he was at his home spending his time. At one time, he heard someone calling him. As he went there to find who was calling him, there was no one. He thought the daughters would call him, and he went to his daughter's room and checked whether his daughters had called him, but they were asleep. Soon he went to his wife Janet to see if she had called him, but she also didn't. She also told that she didn't call him. He left that. It may be some of his parents, but he left that. But first it started from one. They had a TV in the hall. The first day the TV was at the same place, and at some other days it automatically shifted to some other place. And they saw this, and it was a starting point of this incident. And they also saw some of the wooden chairs, tables were moving automatically. They lift this because now they have to see. Now they saw this as a very mystical issue, because chairs won't move automatically, right? So they thought of calling, as they were Christians, they visited the nearby church, and they went there and called a priest. As Ed and Lorraine, I think you know about them. Ed and Lorraine were, they would be very great in priest, like doing some in, they would be in a super, they are persons who are, you can see them in many movies, in ghost movies. They would research about the ghost and what's the source. As they can't find out, they went to the nearby church, and they called and they told all the matters what was there happening to the church father. And the church father suggested that they would send a good priest to find out. As the priest was sent to their place, and and the first day, and they checked all over the house, but they all reported that there was no any supernatural powers or any haunted powers was in the house. But uh, but they told that they saw that the chairs were moving. So the second time they came into the house, and they also researched fully, but they reported that nothing was there. So they thought that if so, but it was happening to them. So they thought that if you're taking this problem again to the church, the priest, they won't get a better solution. So they thought of going to the media and publishing this thing about the media, so media is a group of people, so that they can get a good person who is better in fighting with the ghost. So they come to know about the Ed and Lorraine. They were good in fighting with the ghost, and they came to the house as they were living nearby their house. They came to the house and they checked all over the house, and they told that there was a house which was under the ground which they are living in. And this is the point where the real story begins. And it was about 100 years ago when uh, before they construct this house, there was a large house there, and there a grandmother and his son, and his son's wife died, and they had two children. As they were going there, and they died, as they died earlier, but we don't know how they died. But the report says that they were killed in the house itself. So it is believed that their spiritual matters are surrounding house till now. So demolished the house and they started a new house there. And this was the house where the Jack and Janet family, we can call it a small family, living there. And they thought of this matter very deeply, and they at the time came to the decision that they are ready to sell their house. As a somewhat poor family, as it's a harsh decision for them, they ready to sell their house, and they sold it to a new person. But the fact is that the ghosts are there, but the new owner, they asked him if any mystical power is disturbing him, but he told that no, there was no any like that power disturbing him. They got very shocked to see that, because the ghost was there, and if anyone who came to the house, it would affect them, right? But it did not affect the new owner, so they leave their matter. But what happened is they moved to the next house, that is new house. In that house, the ghost was there. It shows some creepy incidents, and it seemed to follow them. At that time they got a little afraid, because it's the starting point was the moving of the chairs, TV, and it just came to at this point of view. So they thought of doing any other thing, and they lived it there, and the ghost was there, and the ghosts were daily torturing them. So they lived there and they died. But we don't know what was the major thing about this, and what happened to them. And some people tell that it's real, some people tell it may be some hoaxy incidents. But till day we don't know about it. I think it's considered one of the most important horror stories of the America. But I don't know, when we take some horror stories or alien stories, America will be in the top. So thank you. Have a nice day.